Hi, and welcome everybody to another week of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, brought to you by gamblersworld.net. Like every Monday, I am joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. And Doug, how was your weekend?
There's two things I'm going to bring up. Think number one, on the show here at Winner's Circle, 4 in a row winners. Okay,
All right,
beautiful college basketball. So just holding up my end of the bargain on my end on that standpoint. Weekend wasn't bad, Ross. But there's just one overarching thing that continues not to go away, and I think you know where I'm going with this right off the top.
Overtime.
In the NBA, not one but two NBA overtime losers over the weekend. So let's see here. I looked it up. Today's the 5th. As of February the 3rd, in overtime, all sports this is, I am now officially 17-53, okay, in overtime. Okay, that's under 25% for those of you that are keeping score at home. So if I sometimes give a unusual frown, that probably has a lot to do with it, because
I'm not laughing at your win percentage in those situations. I'm just laughing at the fact that we've been discussing this since you've been with me for the last 3 years, you know. So,
right. And it's only getting worse. It's not getting better. So anyways.
Yeah.
So,
not to
how about yourself, Ross? How was your weekend?
I've had a rough go, you know. Couple winning days last week, but overall since around the 4th of January, I really been struggling in a horrific slump right now. And you know how that goes, Doug. It happens on occasion, and you just hope it doesn't go too long. And right now I'm at the point where enough is enough. And when that usually happens, I turn it around pretty good in dramatic fashion. You know, I was coming off 5 consecutive winning months in a row. So like we always do on this channel, Doug, we're always transparent. We tell you when we're winning. We tell you when we're on hot streaks, but we'll also, you know, be realistic with you and transparent with you and tell you when things aren't going so well. I did get a little lucky yesterday on my NBA top play, as I had a total last night in the game. You know, again, I wiped the slate clean going into the next day, but it was a double overtime game last night that I needed every bit of it. Toronto and Oklahoma City. That's correct. It was 210 at the end of regulation. I had the game over 238.5, and it went double overtime, Doug, and I pulled out a win in double overtime. So not to rub salt in a wound, but that may be the kind of occurrence that when that happens, and you didn't deserve to win the game, and you have a little bit of luck on your side, it turns things around for you. So but in any event, we go forward, and I am looking forward to February and March, especially. I historically have been doing very well during those 2 months, specifically so in March. So with March Madness ahead, and also with the Super Bowl coming up, Doug. You know, we're going to be talking Super Bowl props on Thursday, me and you, and you've done awfully well with props this year.
Yeah, 15-6 since late October on NFL props. That's 71.4%. So I'm excited. Right now, I have 5 pegged. I probably might go as high as 7. Got a couple numbers I'm looking at, but and those will actually be released at Docs on Thursday. Okay, so that'll be available then. But yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to that, and also going to have a play on the game. I was thinking about not doing it, but then I found something that I really liked on the game itself, so I'm going to go that direction too on the game. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give that out here, but I will have some action for you on Thursday for sure to talk about on props.
Yeah, we got a big week in store. Me and Doug will be talking college basketball today. We're going to be talking about the 2 games on ESPN tonight between Miami and Virginia, and then that bitter rivalry between Kansas and Kansas State, which Doug will touch upon. Also tomorrow, I'll be back with Jesse Schule and Sean Higgs, and we'll be talking college basketball at that moment in time as well. And then tomorrow afternoon, I'll be back with Paul Bovey, and we'll be talking NFL props at that particular moment in time. Wednesday, back with Jesse and Sean talking college basketball. Thursday with Doug, again, talking NFL props. And then Friday on the live show, we'll be talking about an assorted amount of things with college basketball, the NBA, some Super Bowl props from Sean and Jesse at that particular moment in time. And just a friendly reminder, folks, for the Super Bowl, we're going to be releasing prop plays in the Super Bowl from most of the handicappers, and they're all graded selections now. We just got that fixed this past week. And again, those prop plays, even though we're selling them, you still have our personal guarantee that you must win, you must make a profit, or all single game, multi-game daily packages and subscription plans of 30 days or fewer across the board will all be guaranteed that if you don't win, you don't make a profit, we will credit your account back the exact amount in which you paid for that specific package. Before we get to our two games, Doug, we saw some really good matchups over the weekend. We're going to be talking about Kansas State today. So, but the Kansas-Houston game, could Kansas have played? And I don't want you to go into too deep because you're covering this game anyway. Right. But what a game that Kansas played. I mean, they shot 68% from the field against a team that's arguably, and I still think, is the best defensive team in the nation. Yep. And then we saw Duke and North Carolina, where North Carolina pretty much went wire to wire in that game. And Gonzaga and St. Mary's, it looks like St. Mary's is going to be the team to beat in the West Coast Conference. And Indiana State in the Missouri Valley. And not a lot of people realize how good a team they are. And they knocked off a Drake team that right now, if the season ended, you can make a strong case for them being an at-large team in the NCAA tournament. That's if they don't even win the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. Those two squared off. It was right down to the wire. I did have Indiana State in that game, but, they pulled away in the last minute at the free throw line when
Drake.
Drake was forced to extend the game by intentionally fouling. But anyway, your thoughts, Doug?
Yeah, the start with Kansas and Houston. I'll just say this about Houston. They were like shell-shocked. Okay, that was my impression. Okay, they've played at some different places, but as mentioned last week, the places like Allen Fieldhouse, you don't find those in the American Conference. Okay, from that standpoint. So no, it's that was really impressive just across the board, and I'll touch on more on that later. But yeah, they were just completely taken out of their game and just befuddled is the only word I can come up with for them. As you mentioned, North Carolina, boy, their defense, Ross, it's impressive. I mean, this to me looks like a Final Four team, and with Davis and Bacot starting to roll, and get some, get some other guys that have been playing well. I mean, they're going to be a handful, and they get that number one seed and then get to stay, out east, which is likely the case to where they'll be close to home. I mean, that's a pretty big deal there. Indiana State and Drake, I'm in 100% agreement with you. I heard Joe Lunardi talk about this. He does not believe that, even though the best thing he said that for the Missouri Valley is that Indiana State wins all their games impressively the rest of the season, and they lose in the championship game to Drake, okay, or to whomever they would play. He says he does not see any other way that they could, anybody else could get in other than Indiana State, despite the fact that Drake is probably, a worthy team to get in there. And I'll just say, and I know you'll agree with me on this one, you know what? If Drake keeps playing the way they are, I'll take Drake over some 10 or 11 seed from the Big Ten or the SEC or ACC. I don't give a crap about any of those teams. They're going to lose. Is Drake likely to lose too? Yes. Okay, they are. But I'd rather watch them than to watch some mediocre, team from one of those other conferences. Not impressed at all. And then Tennessee. Boy, at Tennessee, they went to Kentucky, and boy, does Kentucky have some defensive deficiencies. That is fully exposed now. I think I want to say 8 out of their last 9 games, they've given up 75 or more points. So those are some things that caught my eye this weekend. Ross, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee, I didn't expect that they would want to go toe-to-toe in a track meet with Kentucky. I thought that they would try to play, extend the shot clock on several occasions with their offensive rebounding prowess and not known for a great shooting team. But boy, oh boy, they said, you know what? We're seeing the same thing that Doug just mentioned. We don't think that Kentucky's that good a defensive team, and teams aren't willing to run with them, but we are. And boy, oh boy, was that an excellent strategy. Your buddy Rick Barnes over there at Tennessee, who Doug's never been a big fan of, but's doing a good job there this year. In any event, St. Mary's and Gonzaga, not impressed with either one of those teams. In terms of, are they viable candidates to get to the third day of the tournament or the Sweet 16? I don't think so. Gonzaga's definitely not up to snuff. You mentioned that last week or 2 weeks ago on the show. St. Mary's is a solid team, but they're not a great team. And especially if you can get the lead on them, it takes them out of their style of play. If they can control the tempo, which a lot of it has to do with them having the lead in games, especially in the second half, they're tough to beat. But, I just don't know if you could win with that style that they play deep into the NCAA tournament. Let's just put it that way. Drake and Indiana State, I watched the game and I watched it intently because I needed Indiana State in that game. And I felt pretty fortunate to come out on top, Doug. But my eye test, now don't forget, these teams played at Drake earlier in the season and Drake won by 11 and out-rebounded them by a large margin. To me, when I look at the eye test, I think Drake's the better team. I just think that the only difference in that game was they got off to a terrible start. They fell behind right off the bat, 24-7. Then they had to expend a lot of energy to get back into the game, and they just ran out of gas down the stretch. And when you have a small lead or you're down a couple points against Indiana State late and you're forced to foul, don't expect the Sycamores to miss from the free throw line. They're amongst the best free throw shooting teams in all college basketball. But my eye test, Doug, my impression is I came away from that saying I think Drake is slightly the better team out of the two. So it would be a shame to see either one of them be left out if they continue to win, like you said, down the stretch. And even if one of them gets knocked off in the conference semifinals, I mean, I agree with you, Doug. I'm a proponent of the fact that I'd rather see a team from the Missouri Valley that's had a fantastic year and looks like they can compete and beat some of these, how could I put it, second tier choices to get to and when I say that, number 7 to number 11 choices to get to the NCAA tournament out of major conferences, I think they can compete with just about any of those teams. So any final thoughts before we get to our games?
I mean, there's no question if, for example, I'll just pick this team. If Mississippi State is like one of the last teams in, which is a possibility, would they be favored against Indiana State or Drake? The answer is yes. Okay, not significantly favored, but they would be favored. But that doesn't mean that they're more deserving. Okay, at least to me. I mean, I'd rather see a better team that played, well all year long than watch somebody that is 18-13, has some record. Yes, they played tougher competition and all that other stuff. To your point, though, about Indiana State and Drake, I agree with you on that point, is that if Drake has more versatility in the fact that they can play different ways, Indiana State has to play fast. Okay. They have to get up and down the floor. That's their style of play. And if they're able to do that, okay, they are very difficult to beat. But if you can slow them down, as we saw what Drake did, that's how they brought themselves back in the game. Indiana State's a little impatient on offense that way. So it's an interesting, but it's good to see Indiana State, with the whole Larry Bird thing for those of that.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see that. And here, I got a quick story for you, by the way.
Sure.
They mentioned it during the game. So you were watching the game, so you heard this. Indiana State used to be coached by John Wooden, okay, the great John Wooden of UCLA and everything else. He was the coach at Indiana State. And they had, back in those days, it was called the NAIA. And this was the late 1940s. So this is a really long time ago. But they had a black player on their team, okay, at the time. And so they made the tournament, and they were not allowed to be in the tournament because of the black player. Or I'm sorry, they weren't going to be invited. And so then they tried to acquiesce on that, the NIA did. And John Wooden said, no, we're good. Okay, we just won't play. They changed the rule the following year. And the year after that, when that player was a senior, they made the tournament. And I believe they won the tournament.
They did win it. Yes. And then John Wooden went on to UCLA shortly thereafter.
I thought that was a great story and something I had no knowledge of.
Yeah, I consider myself a pretty good sports historian. And that was news to me. We think of John Wooden, we think about UCLA, and I had no clue that he was at Indiana State at one time. I'm sure the avid UCLA fans out there know that, and people who have followed the Pac-12 for many, many years. But I was not aware of that. So that was great. That was a great story. And thank you for bringing that up, Doug. So let's get right to the games, Doug. Kansas and Kansas State. The game will be played at Kansas State. Here's my concern with Kansas. I think on paper, Kansas, by the way, right now, 4.5 point favorite, I believe I have them at.
4.5. It's like divided.
4.5. Okay. All right. So let's say 4, and 145 is a total. I'm just concerned with the fact that they're coming off that emotional win against Houston on Saturday. Now they're going on the road against a struggling Kansas State team that's gone, and I don't want to take too much of your thunder away. I just want my concerns going in. 0-4 straight up in ATS in their last 4. And then Kansas goes from playing Houston to Kansas State, a struggling team, 2 days later on the road in a game that's a rivalry game. And then on deck for them Saturday as another nationally ranked opponent in Baylor that they'll be entertaining at Allen Fieldhouse. Anyway, it doesn't matter what I think. What do you think?
Well, in this one, we're talking about things that are, let's just say, trivia, if you will. Well, these teams, the Kansas and Kansas State, are meeting for the 300th time, tonight. And that is the sixth most played rivalry in Division I basketball. And these teams have played every year from 1907. And no, Ross and I did not see that game, just so everybody is aware. But it's the second longest active rivalry in Division I. Now, as you mentioned, Ross, Kansas played virtually a perfect game, against Houston. I mean, it just how they shot the ball that well. Their execution was absolutely flawless against the Cougars, who, as you know, they're still the best defensive team in the country. They just weren't that day. Now, one of the things I always look at it from a handicapping standpoint, and this is true of anything in basketball, college or pro. I'm always looking to, if I can find a situation where a team shoots over 60%, I'll look to find a way to play against them, in the next game if I can get the right number. Well, Kansas shot almost 70%, 68.9. So, there's going to be some regression. I mean, that's just a given here. And they're going from Allen Fieldhouse to Manhattan, Kansas, where the crowd will be literally 100% against them, in this one. And as you mentioned, just one day off, those are some things. Now, Kansas State, obviously they're going to be extremely hungry in this one. As you mentioned, 0-4 straight up and against the spread. Not a good offensive team. They rely on their defense, which can work, and especially if Kansas is not shooting the ball well. And they've held opponents to just over 40% shooting, so they get the job done. They keep themselves in the game. While I agree Kansas State is very tempting, one thing the Wildcats do not do is value the possession of the ball. They are averaging 15 turnovers a game. There's 362 teams in Division I college basketball. Only 14 teams turn the ball over more than Kansas State does. So to me, that's the difference in the game. Kansas State hangs in early, but the mistakes, the turnovers that they have, I'll say Kansas gets the job done and wins this game by 6, Ross.
Yeah, it's either I looked at this game and I try to make a case for Kansas State. And the first thing that came to my mind is what I just mentioned at the top before we got into your analysis. And still, I couldn't get past, what I've seen recently from Kansas State. They do play very good defense, but they're a little bit undisciplined too. I mean, when you look at the fact they're giving up 24 free throw attempts per game in conference play, and that includes 30 free throw attempts per game over their last 5 contests. That will wipe out a lot of good defense, because you're allowing teams to go to the free throw line and score without the clock moving. So to me, I'm steering clear of the side in this game. I will tell you, I have a winning total tonight in Kansas and Kansas State, right at gamblersworld.net. It's up right now, $35. Your guarantee is that if I don't win that game, you're going to be credited back the exact amount of your purchase price. If you have no credit and you just go in and pay $35, you're going to get the $35 back. And if you have credit, you could use it toward this purchase. And whatever money you had in credit, if it doesn't cover the whole balance of $35, we'll credit you that back if I don't win. Folks, I'm going on a tear right now. I'm telling you, right? I'm promising you it's going to be one of those epic runs you saw prior to January 1st, where I went on a 5-month run. So in any event, Doug is on the Kansas Jayhawks -4 over Kansas State. And I cannot disagree with him for many reasons. And he already touched upon the majority of those, and there's no sense me belaboring the point any further. All right, let's get to Miami and Virginia. Virginia opened at 4-point favorite. They're up to 6 right now. The total in this game is 132.5, which is sort of high for a Virginia game. But here's the thing. I looked at, let me try to make a case here for Miami of Florida, because is the odds makers overreacting to Virginia's recent good play of late? And you think of Miami and how good of a dog they've been over the years, but that's not been the case this year. The Miami Hurricanes, they're 1-4 straight up in ATS and true road games this year as an underdog. And that includes 0-3 straight up in ATS if they're an underdog of 3 or greater. So they really haven't thrived in the situation like they have in years past. Now, Virginia looked like, okay, this isn't your typical Virginia team. This isn't going to be a dominant team. They don't shoot the ball well enough. They still play great defense. They still know how to control the pace. They know how to slow the pace down to where it's frustrating to play against, but they weren't off to a great start. But boy, oh boy, they're starting to gel now. They've won their last 6. I had them on Saturday as an underdog at Clemson, and they won the game 66-65. And that 6-0 run they're on right now, they covered 4 and pushed once in those 6 games. So they've been making money for us, including 3-0 3-0-1 against the spread as a single-digit favorite in the 6-game win streak. They're also, as much as they had a disappointing start to the season, one thing is a constant. They're still real good in Charlottesville. 12-0 against 12-0 straight up in Charlottesville this year on their home floor. They covered 8 of those games. 1 was a push, so 8-3-1 against the spread. Their average point per game differential at home, they're outscoring opponents by 19.9 points per game. Of course, some of those numbers are a little inflated because of the level of competition they played in the non-conference portion of their schedule. But having said that, they still have dominated at home. Virginia's also 3-0 straight up in their last 3 at home versus Miami. And all 3 of those wins came by double-digit margins. This is a Virginia team, like I alluded to. They still know how to play defense. They still slow the tempo of games down. They still frustrate opponents when it comes to playing against them because of their style, and they're still solid defensively. As a matter of fact, Virginia, especially on their home floor, has allowed 57 points or fewer in 11 of their 12 games at home this year. The lone exception was in an 84-62 win against Syracuse. And their numbers defensively at home, 50.3 points per game allowed. They're holding opponents to less than 36% shooting, 27% from the three-point line. And I talked about discipline when we talked about Kansas State. They're good defensively, but they're a little bit undisciplined in the fact that they allow so many free throws per game. Well, Virginia at home is allowing 11 free throw attempts per game. So not only are they playing great defense, they're doing it without fouling, and they're making it hard for teams have to earn their points on their offensive possessions. Virginia just doesn't hand them to you. They're number 2 in ACC play, by the way, in three-point shooting percentage at 39.8%. As a matter of fact, over their last 5 games, which is right along the lines of this current win streak, they shot 42.3% from beyond the three-point line, despite the fact that I went in, Doug, looking to make a case for the underdog in this matchup. especially when I see the line go from 4 to 6. I'm not going to do so. I think that Virginia is playing very well right now, and Miami has struggled a bit on the road, especially when they step up in competition in true road games. I'm going to take Virginia here, -6 over Miami.
Yeah, I like the pick, Ross. I just was a little nervous on that. The 2 points. I mean, everything you said about Virginia is absolutely true. There's nothing there to say that isn't. That they play really well at home. They shoot the ball so much better at home. And the problem with Miami that I've noticed this year more than anything is that they just don't rebound. Okay, they're just not a good rebounding team, and I think that's really hurt them, especially like on the road when you need to, hit the boards and you can get some, maybe some cheap points because they still have team speed. They still can run up and down the court. They just don't control the tempo as they normally do, and I think that's a function of just not getting enough rebounds in this one. So I'm going to go with the total in this one, and Miami was very fortunate, honestly, I thought, to beat Clemson the other day, or no, it was Virginia Tech. I'm sorry, to beat Virginia Tech. They made a comeback, but they ended up going 27 of 29, okay, at the free throw line. And that's really how they ended up winning and covering that game. So I just, Miami just puts me, I'm just not sure about them. I think they will struggle to score in this one. You mentioned about the lack of free throws that Virginia allows, and Miami doesn't take a lot of free throws on the road either. In fact, the average number of free throws in their road games is 30, just on the nose. So that's a low number. And I believe Virginia's, I think, is like 20 or maybe 21, something like that. Or
they don't get their free throw line a lot either. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So in fact, this game might be an hour and 45 minutes with some time to fill for ESPN on this one.
Pitchers duel.
I'm going to go under the 132.5. The Hurricanes 11-3 under in road games off a home win. And the Wahoos, okay, I wonder if Thomas Jefferson said that, okay, Wahoos. The Wahoos are 7-0 under at home games when the total is between 130 and 139.5. So I'm going to go under the 132.5. And for those that don't know, Thomas Jefferson was the one that founded the University of Virginia.
I knew you had some kind of method to your madness with that statement. And sure enough. All right. Our official play in this game is on Virginia -6 over Miami. Doug likes the under 132.5. And again, those free throws, you mentioned Miami. They were very fortunate to win against Virginia Tech in your eyes. And a key component to that was going 27 out of 29 from the free throw line. But we, like I mentioned, Virginia does not allow you to get there that often. Right. So again, that 4 to 6 point move was the first thing that Doug, that I said I got to see if I can make a case for Miami here. But when I look at the numbers, and I like to look at this stuff as a small part of my handicap, and is to see, is this public money or is this sharp money? And if you look, the splits between number of bets made on this game and the total money bet on each side is around 50-50 for each. And this line moved 2 points. That leads me to believe this is more of a smart money move or a sharp money move than it is a public move. So again, I'm going to go with Virginia here. -6 is our official play. And Doug likes the Kansas Jayhawks -4 over Kansas State. 2 big Monday games, both on ESPN. Kansas and Kansas State goes at 9 o'clock. Miami and Virginia, they go at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Doug, tell the folks a little bit about what's going on at Doc Sports and anything that they need to know in terms of how hot you've been in any specific sport or all sports.
Well, so they'll start with, hey, I'm trying to make 5 in a row right here at Winter Circle. So let's see if I can get that done first of all tonight. Okay, so we'll do that. Over the weekend, I had a 6-unit best bet on Justin Thomas to finish in the top 20 in golf. And guess what? He finished in a tie for 6th in the rain-shortened Pebble Beach Open. So had a nice 6-unit winner there. That's 2 straight winning weeks in golf. So I will have some more golf action if you stop by the Doug Upstone page at Doc Sports on Wednesday, because I got a home game this week with the Waste Management Open here in Phoenix, and I'll be there on Saturday. having some liquid refreshments on Saturday afternoon. So everything will be quite good right there. Now, as far as other things going on, well, NHL's back tonight, Monday. Okay, it's back with just 2 games, but I got to play on one of them tonight, and I'm on a 28-18 run in the NHL, and look to get off to a good start here as we get the rest of the regular season, and have a winner to go tonight. NBA action. I mentioned that I had a couple of overtime losses I wasn't too happy about. It's not stopping me though, and I guarantee you, I absolutely guarantee you, I will not lose an overtime tonight because my top play is a first half play, Ross. So I got it covered. Okay. But I have a Monday top play in the NBA, and it's on the first half of a game. So that's also at the Doug Upstone page at Doc Sports. Ross mentioned props, NFL props. I'm going to, like I said, have probably 5 to 7 props, and I'm going to have a play on the game as well. I'll mention that likely on Thursday as well. So lots of great action to start the week, Ross. And now I'm turning it over to you to let the folks hear what Ross Benjamin has to say and what's going on.
Well, thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. And Doug is a golf aficionado. He worked in the golf business for a long time. And for those of you out there that say, well, how you bet on golf? You know what? Look, you don't have to watch the tournament. Just make his picks, win some money. Who cares? And I don't know, Doug. I mean, I hear a rumor, the waste management tournament this week. Is that what it's called? The waste management tournament?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's actually now they changed it to WM Phoenix Open, actually. That's the official new name.
Okay, which stands for waste management, which a lot of people are saying is a junkie tournament. Is that correct?
Anyway,
let's
that's
get
why
to,
they changed the name. I think you just made the point.
All right. Okay. So that's just all rumor and conjecture. And if everything else fails, I'm not going to make it as a comedian, folks, although some of you think that's the case. In any event, I am my top plays have done pretty well, even though I've been struggling of late over the last few weeks. I've gone 12-6 with my top plays, which encompass 4, 5, and 10 unit plays, mostly 4 and 5 unit plays. So I've been cashing in on those. I cashed in on one last night, as I alluded to. Got a little bit lucky, but my college basketball totals, and I have a college basketball total tonight in that Kansas State game. Have done awfully well, as a matter of fact. Specifically 59 and 33 with my college basketball totals. That spans all the way back to 2022. So 64% on 92 college basketball totals. And my dime players during that course of time have made over close to $23,000, just a shade under $23,000. So something to keep an eye on there. My NBA top plays, 4 units and greater, 39 and 20 run. And that's good for 66%. So we do have some good stuff going on right now. And it's just a matter of time before I catch fire again, folks. And when I catch fire, I can make bookmakers or sportsbook odds makers, sports books, or local bookmakers, if they still exist. I've been known to make them lose a little bit of sleep at night. So I foresee that coming up. Mr. Upstone, he always makes people lose sleep, and it's not always with his sports betting.
And it has nothing to do with gambling. There's nothing to do with gambling. Right.
All right.
Absolutely true.
We'll see you back on Thursday, my friend. We'll be doing NFL props at that time. I'll be back tomorrow morning with Jesse and Sean. We'll be talking college basketball then. Also, folks, tomorrow afternoon, Paul Bovey, who seems to be a popular guest on our show. And if you've been following Paul all year, talking NFL, he loves his NFL props. So we'll be talking some NFL props with him tomorrow. He's a real live wise guy, folks. This guy bets a ton of money. And you know me, I don't make up stories like some others that you may find on some of these podcasts across the internet. This guy is a real live wise guy, and we're fortunate enough to have him here at gamblersworld.net. Doug, there's a like button right underneath us.
Hit it once, just once. Hit the like button, and then Ross and I will be smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah, and hopefully you don't hesitate the way Doug just did. And hit that like button, folks. Just a small token of your appreciation for the time, work, and effort we put into bringing you a quality podcast 6 times a week on this great channel. And folks, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, take a second to do so. There's a black subscribe button right underneath. You're watching this. You like sports betting. You love sports betting. You're interested in all the great guests I have on this show. And I have some great ones, not only Doug, Sean Higgs, Jesse Schule, Paul Bovey, Matt Fargo will be joining us on a regular basis in the near future. Chip Chirimbus, who's out right now because of health concerns, but he'll be back. So we got some of the best in the industry right here. Click that black subscribe button. It costs you absolutely nothing. There's no strings attached. There's no hidden agenda. And if you're on your PC, you'll see a WC logo right in the bottom right-hand corner of your video boxes. Click on that. That serves the same purpose. And for those of you who have subscribed, which we appreciate each and every one of you out there, and all our subscribers, and for those who are new and just subscribed, make sure you go into your YouTube settings and take an extra second, click on that alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, and you'll be notified immediately upon any of our podcasts being published on our great channel here. Until the next time, for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, take care and God bless, folks.